Man, I'm upset that Adil's not here. I think he's showing off that Drake is now walking around in canes. So I think he thinks he's cool. He's too cool for us now because Drake is Drake is in his line.
Yeah, does that mean Drake is listening to our podcast? He heard about Kane and that's where.
I guess, or there's some back end endorsements deals that Adil's working on that we don't know about.
Men go mad.
He's gone mad.
Madmen.
You're mad.
The man's mad.
Madmen.
I'm mad.
So everybody, welcome back to the Madman Pod. It's Monday. Well, actually, it's Friday. We record on Fridays. We release on Monday. But each of us has gone, and each of us had our own sessions. I did the trends and stuff, and Adil talked about the history of bad incidents and good incidents, and you did the rivalry episode last week. Man, you're a little bit unfair advantage because you didn't have me on the channel that day, but it was a good episode. I heard it, but we should do something with that. We got to put it to a vote.
Yeah, we need to figure out the right format for that. But yeah, I had fun doing it. We definitely missed you. I feel like our debates are always fun. And to put ourselves pitted against each other in the space of rivalry, yeah, it would have been a good time. But it won't be the last one we'll have, that's for sure.
For sure. We should probably, what we should do? We should do a vote on Instagram stories. And we should pick a random, look, here's what we're going to do. We'll go figure this out. Do this on the spot. I say we do a poll. So everybody go vote on the poll and see whose episode you liked better. Mine, Samir's, or Adil's. And then we're going to pick up some random people and we're going to go figure out how to do some merch. Give them like a Mad Men hat or something. We'll figure it out. But go vote this week. We'll put it on every episode reel, every story, and we'll get you guys voting. We'll vote over time and see what happens and see how this goes. What do you think?
Love it. Who doesn't love merch? I'm all about it.
Hey, man. So it is my week this week. So we're gonna, we're gonna go take it and we're gonna talk about a few things. But we are missing our CEO of Suburban Moms, Adil. He's gonna be out today. But I do have the great insight from our VP of agency, Samir, and then me, the best B2B marketer there is, Salim Kiwala. So shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. In this first segment, we're gonna break down what's trending. Let's start with the biggest monster there is, Google. Last week, Google supposedly has a buyout offer out for HubSpot. This is a rumor that Google's parent company, Alphabet, is in talks to acquire HubSpot for $33 billion. For those that don't know what HubSpot is, it's a marketing automation and CRM tool with about over 200,000 customers and about $2.1 billion in revenue from 2023. There's a couple questions here I want to ask. One is, does it fit with Google's business model to acquire a CRM and a marketing automation? Is this a smart move for Google to spend $33 billion on this acquisition? And lastly, more importantly, will FTC even approve this? I don't know if you saw the episode of The Daily Show, but what are your thoughts, Samir? This has got to be up in your world.
The FTC thing approving it is going to be the big question mark. But as far as whether this fits Google's business model, I think it does. So I'm going to see Google as in pursuit of the online advertising world, right? There's two sides to online advertising, the data collection side, and then what I'll call the data activation side. Google has been the strongest player in data collection since its history, but it's always lacked that data activation side. And that's where CRM really comes in. Now, there is certain tools that are already in Google's workspace with those business solutions, but they're a little bit more built for the common person, right? Like that's all of Google's technology is built for the average person to become more tech savvy. And even in the business solutions world, I feel like those were things that were set in mind, right? There was Joe's lawnmower company and Betty's laundromat could utilize Google's and its business solution services to promote their businesses, right? You have working with Google Workspaces, you have their docs and PowerPoint systems, they have basic analytics and even a CRM model. But it's not for that mid-tier sophisticated business who actually invests in real business solutions, right? These are people who shell out a regular amount of money to activate and collect their data. And that's what HubSpot really sits in this mid-tier. This isn't that big dog with Oracle and Adobe's of the world, but this is right in that sweet spot where a lot of businesses are now starting to play and want that level of sophistication. So I'm going to say yes, that I think it does fit Google's business model. I think it's a a little bit more sophisticated than the solutions that they've normally built, which tends to be about for the common person. But I think they're seeing something that we're not. I think there is a lot of growth in that mid-tier space. I think people are getting more sophisticated with how they manage their business operations, and everyone wants to be smarter in CRM, and Google does data collection exceptionally well, better than anyone else out there. So why not data activation? I'm in.
Look, I agree with the data activation portion of this, right? I think there is some value in the data activation, but let's look at it like here's my challenge in this, right? The Google Ads business, which is majority small to medium sized business, right? That's usually the majority of that ad revenue spend is these like their ad revenue spend like revenue was like $220 billion last year. So it's $220 billion. $2 billion of that, that's not even 1% of the revenue. Like what value does a $33 billion acquisition make? That's questionable. But then how many, like, for those we use HubSpot, right? And I don't know how many of your clients use HubSpot, but it's a great tool if used correctly. A lot of people can't even fulfill 90% of the activations that HubSpot has. Now you're going to go hand this off to medium to large businesses or medium to small businesses, and it's going to be a shit show. And they're going to have chaos trying to manage this thing. Support at Google is not the greatest on ads. I don't know if anybody's ever worked with Google Ads marketing or support. They're getting better, but it's still not good. It's usually self checkout system over there. But look, I think visionarily is a good idea to have a CRM or something that can go justify the ROI. Like, hey, I spent $1 million in ad. My ROI percentage was 20%. Now I can convert that and have true, conversion numbers to say, hey, we drove $1 million in sales from that $1 million of ads, right? That makes a whole lot of sense. Now, is it going to be feasible and doable? I really don't know. It's HubSpot is complicated as it is. Then you add Google, who's very simple. I don't think the culture thrives together, right? Part of it is, yes, is it strategic? Yes. My other question is it defensive? Like with ad money going down, people are spending less. Are they looking for an alternate route to revenue? And again, $33 billion for a $2 billion revenue company, is it the right play? I'm not sold. And then, yes, I think FTC is going to have a cow, which might take 3-4 years just to clear this hurdle. Again, depends on who gets elected next year, but I think it's going to be a tough battle.
Yeah. I'm gonna make the assumption that Google might have felt that their top spenders in their business solution space were looking for a more sophisticated program, a more sophisticated upgrade. And Google, instead of trying to build one, wanted to go and buy one. And I think there might be something happening of those business solution members within Google currently are hitting this cap on technological sophistication. And it's very expensive and time consuming to shift from one CRM to another. So maybe there's something there that Google understands about their business model today, is that the simplicity is great entry into the Google business world, but the exit is really difficult. And it might be happening more often than they would like. So maybe that's why they want to build this kind of next level of sophistication so that they can retain more of that massive pool, potentially even charge more and upgrade for now that it's part of the Google ecosystem, that now you're retaining those business solution members better who are looking for more sophistication and probably charge more for it than HubSpot does.
Look, my assumption, it could be a terribly wrong assumption, right? Your big spenders have some sort of MarTech on the background. Most likely it's HubSpot, could be Marketo, something like that is probably, these spenders are probably have it, right? So are you just shifting like, hey, are you just shifting the revenue model and just saying, hey, go here versus here? Or just, could you not just create a very sophisticated API or connection to do the job that the HubSpot does for you already, right? There is already a HubSpot integration with Google Ads and Google Analytics. I just don't know if it can make it more sophisticated instead of spending, I don't know. It's the number that catches me, right? $33 billion for $2 billion revenue. And which is only a percentage. Like, I can understand if Google was a smaller business, but $220 billion ad revenue already. Are you going to just add $2 billion? It seems like pocket change to me.
We'll maybe we'll keep talking about this 3 years later when the FTC is still talking about it too.
On episode 500, here we are. Let's talk about another social. While we're on the topic of social, Trump Social went public last week, and it was the uproar. Like, the numbers were there, people were buying it, and then all of a sudden, the revenue came out. They lost what, $55 million or something like that, and now their stock tanked 30%. Like, what is this? Like, is this what do you think? Is this a real social platform that Trump is trying to do with Trump Social, or is this just like a marketing scheme to just raise more money for Trump so he can pay his bail?
I think we know from history that everything Trump does is a marketing scheme. But I looked more into this, and like analysts have cautioned about Trump media shares were trading completely divorced from its actual financial health since its inception. But these shares are being sustained by those thousands and thousands of individual investors who are believed to be strong Trump supporters. Did you ever watch Dumb Money, that movie about the GameStop saga? I think this is shaping up to be Dumber Money, the sequel. We have this DJT stock that has become the stock to short on Wall Street because it has been overinflated since they went public. And then these small, quote unquote, naive investors are Trump supporters scattered around the country who are buying DJT stock. These guys aren't trying to make money. They are just trying to support Trump and stick it to Wall Street and everyone who doubts the power of MAGA. I think this is going to be another version of Dumb Money. I think people are just doing this to piss off Wall Street and creating this fire in the belly right into election season. People who continue to doubt Trump and what he can do just gets those Trump supporters even louder. I don't want to be on either side of this stock. This is too yucky for me. I wouldn't short. I wouldn't buy. I think this is just something that we're going to see play out, but it's going to have much bigger implications than just the stock valuation from a business perspective. Like, this has a lot of political entanglement in it, and I think this just becomes another one of those grounds for battle that we see a lot, especially with the upcoming election season.
Disclaimer: this is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors. Please do not take any of that from us. But no, I agree. Right? I think it's a funny stock. The market does weird things with this, and we've seen this a few times, with GameStop being one of them, and a couple of Dogecoins and some other like meme stocks that have come up. And it's a weird environment, especially after, like, I would say I give credit to Robinhood for all this chaos, for these individual investors that have been doing these weird stock purchases that have no rhyme or reason of why the market does these. And I've seen it multiple times over. It's insane. But yes, I would agree. I would bet, if you want to bet on it, then bet on it. But it's a bet. Know that at some point it's gonna do something weird. And my guess is it's probably gonna. My personal guess is ride it till the election, and I'm sure as soon as the election is over, he's back on Twitter X, and then back to his normal shenanigans.
Sounds about right.
So we better get some. If you haven't seen it yet, that's the new tagline from CMO of Papa John's. Better get you some. Mark Spauger, who was a former CMO of Mod Pizza, has taken the helms early last year, and this is his first big campaign. Better Get You Some is anchored by a hero spot heavy on sensory overload and soundtracked by legendary rapper Big Boy. The spot centers on a young woman who dissociates during a date after seeing a Papa John's delivery car and just goes into some sort of like a trance of pizza. What do you think? Like, what do you think of this, Amir? What does a creative brief like this look like? What is Mark's intention with this?
Go get Gen Z and speak their language. It's kind of what it sounds like. This is a twist from what we've normally seen from Papa John's. If you have seen some of the controversy behind this, a lot of people from the African American community are very offended by this. And let me walk you through why. I honestly feel like most people in the country would find this really catchy. I think it's nostalgic. It gives Papa John's a completely different tone that could resonate with younger audiences. But the problem lies, and a lot of people are speaking very loudly about this, is in the slogan, "Better Get You Some," actually derives from African American Vernacular English, or AAVE. So there's a collection of words that you've probably heard in Gen Z speak: lit, turnt, bay, drip, bougie. They're generally speaking, a lot of Gen Z vocabulary comes from AAVE. And this isn't the first time we are seeing brands use AAVE. And most of the time it has been done without bothering anyone. Right? We talked about Starry before, the soda brand. Their slogan is "Hits Different." Right? McDonald's started "I'm loving it." All right? This is all deriving from AAVE. I personally don't see anything wrong with the slogan, except for the fact that it was the wrong brand to use it. If we have to remind ourselves, back in 2018, the founder of Papa John's, Mr. Papa John himself, was outed from his own company for using the N word on a conference call. So, Papa John's, you don't get to use AAVE in your advertising if you've had a very loud and public past of racial insensitivity. I don't care how much Shaquille O'Neal you use to repair your image. You have a long way to go to resonate with the African American community, let alone trying to use their language in your advertising. So, I don't have a problem with the slogan. I have a problem with the brand that decided to use it.
No, that's fair. I'm on board. Like this is a very like, better ingredients, better what is it? Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's was the original slogan. I think that was telling. I think a version like you could either enhance that version or go to an extreme. I think they went to an extreme. My gut also tells me that this is not going to land well, right? I think it's. I see the direction that he's going. I think the market that he's going for, and I don't think it's the target audience for his customers, right? I don't think his audience is there, and he's trying to elevate that audience, right? Like he's trying to take that mod pizza, audience and say, hey, it's a pizza buyer, right? It doesn't matter if he's a mod pizza buyer or if he's a Papa John's pizza buyer. I think there's a difference. There's a reason why there's so many pizza places because everybody has a preference, everybody has a style. There are more mom and pop pizza places than any other food category. We talked about that a couple episodes ago, right? I think it's going to be a rough ride for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've seen Domino's, Pizza Hut really do a good job at resonating with today's culture. And I think Papa John's tried to do that with this. And if they didn't have that history that they've had with Papa John himself in their archive, I think this would have landed well. But people have not forgotten about Papa John and what he said and how he was outed from his own company for it. And I don't even know if this is a time thing that you're just going to have to let more time go by. I think this is always going to be in Papa John's shadow, and they're just going to have to find other ways to try to connect with culture. It can't be like this, though.
Authenticity, we talk about all the time, right? Bud Light had this issue. They went back to their roots, and I think they landed pretty well second time around. I think that's what Papa John's is going to have to do. They're going to have to go back to their roots and just land and then rebuild from that. So last trend we're going to talk about, Samir, you see the eclipse last week?
I did. Super cool, man. What a thing to be a part of.
It's super cool. I get it. But man, people just overdid this thing. I mean, I was talking to a buddy that drove out to like the countryside to go see it and a really cool picture he sent me to me. But he was like, Airbnbs were going for like $2,000 a night for like a $200 Airbnb. People are flying to Texas for $1,500 flights. Man, I could go to Europe for $1,500 flight. But man, the world fakely freaked out about the solar eclipse, and people made bank on it. It says the economy generated close to $6 billion because of the eclipse. But Samir, what I want to know is, what was your favorite ad? There's a lot of eclipse ads, and they did a really good job. So, what was your favorite?
Yeah, there was a lot. You're right, and honestly, I think my favorite brand who played into this was Warby Parker. And there's probably pieces of this that you might not even have come across, but they gave away free ISO certified Eclipse glasses at all stores. They had a free download for a DIY Eclipse pinhole projector. They had partnered with Delta Airlines to offer free glasses to travelers visiting those Delta Sky Clubs at cities where there was a flood of visitors for the eclipse. And they added a 10% off next pair of glasses to Delta SkyMile users. So I think why I like them and how they played into this, because I felt like it was very well-rounded and it matched the product. When the stunt matches the product, it's a good idea. And what I always find surprising, nobody in the eye care category did anything besides Warby Parker. And if they did, it was nowhere near enough to get any media attention. When this eclipse happened, the first thing that I was constantly drilled, aside from the date, was to make sure that you have the proper eyewear to experience it. Why did we not see more from the eyewear category? Yeah, it's clever for space-themed brands like Sonic or Sunchips to have clever brand acts, or brands whose products are just round to do something creative like Oreo or Krispy Kreme did just because they're a circle. But Warby Parker is continuing to show us how powerful brand marketing can be at the right moment. especially in a category where competitors are just naive and silent when it comes to these moments. And that's why I think we've seen Warby Parker develop the brand that they are today. And when we think about all of the other brands that are in the eyewear category, sunglasses and eyewear is a small piece of a much bigger pool of products that they sell. But Warby Parker is doubling down on this one thing that they know how to do really well, and they know how to brand themselves around it. So I was really impressed with Warby Parker. It was just very well rounded. It tied in a promotion. It shared that loyalty. It gave back to the community. And with the few locations that they've had, I feel like they made a pretty big splash. So kudos to Warby.
No, I agree. I think that I didn't get the full details of that stuff, but that was, from what I'm hearing from you, and we'll look it up more. That seems like a right on the money marker point. It's one of those, where right product, right category, right time, right moment. And if you hit them all marks, then you hit home, right? There was a couple basic ones that, like you mentioned, Oreos and Krispy Kremes, that like if they didn't, they wouldn't did it, but also they're cost effective, right? They still made the impact. They don't cost a lot to do. So it's I think they landed well, but I think nothing beats that Warby Parker thing. Trump had one too. I don't know if you saw the Trump one where he eclipsed the. He's just trying to get on everything, selling Bibles, and man, he's he's all over the place.
Election season, ladies and gentlemen. We are seeing political ads up on the moon and in the eclipse.
Everything is up for grabs. All right, let's get into the next segment. For the segment number 2, we're going to talk about up and coming brands, and I got a group chat that goes on with a lot of marketing guys, and I kind of threw in a couple ideas and said, hey, look, who's got a topic, who's got a brand to watch. So we came up with a few of those, and then a couple ones that I've been watching. So the first one I want to talk about to kick this off is a very unique. It starts off with a very unique collaboration. I think this collaboration put them on the mark. This might get us a little bit of trouble, maybe a little bit of censorship, but Asa Akira, who's an adult film star, partnered up with a company called Frida Mom. And Frida Mom sells a variety of products for pregnant women and educates them to very explicit content of what happens during a pregnancy and all the things that are happening. She, Asa, is very popular. People know her. And I think this allows her to be in a positive light. And I think this is a very disruptive ad campaign. And I think it's really something interesting to look at. And this company is very something interesting to look at. It's something good for the community, good for the environment, good for people. I say environment, but like people to understand what happens and be prepared. You're a recent father, you know this. What do you think? What do you think about this?
Yeah, when I actually thought twice about whether we should talk about this on the podcast as 3 men who host a podcast. But the more I looked into Frida Uncensored, the more I felt like we should talk about it, because brands like this and what they are doing to fight against the stigma is very important. There's a censorship problem in the US around women's wellness products. And unfortunately, sex education has only taught women how not to get pregnant. And when someone wants to get pregnant and seeks out information about all of it that surrounds it, most of what they find is illustrated, animated, or censored. I've always been a fan of Frida, the parent brand, and they have always taken a stand against this type of censorship. They've committed to transparently and honestly preparing women for their journey to and through motherhood, from conception through postpartum relief and beyond. And Frida has faced massive hurdles in form of censorship, from being prohibited from using the word vagina on billboards to being banned by ABC for trying to run an ad during the Oscars depicting a woman's postpartum recovery. My wife, Sophie, and I just had twins 3 months ago. So I've just now recently have been exposed to this topic about women's health through pregnancy and postpartum relief. And honestly, I love what Frida has been able to do for my family by offering solutions that fight the problem head on with no PC fluff or vague language as if it's some sort of puzzle for people to understand whether it's something that can help or not. I think Frida Uncensored is taking this conversation to the next level, is having a honest and transparent conversation about what female bodies go through. And it's really important. I think the partnership with Asa Akira is really smart. It's going to break through. I think it's getting a lot of attention to a topic that I think really needs it. And why we're talking about it today on this podcast is hitting that exact point that Frida wants to hit as well. And that's defeating the stigma and removing the censorship that tends to happen around this topic, even though it's a really important one. So I'm going to give a round of applause to Frida and Frida Uncensored for this.
No, I agree. They're disrupting the market. They're definitely telling a story, and one that needs to be told, and they're doing it the way that they want to do it. They're being authentic, which is very important, and I think they're doing a good job. So we're happy to spotlight them and make sure that they get a voice. The second one that came up on mine was TenderCo. TenderCo is a new and upcoming startup. Is TenderCo? Blah. Let's try that again. A new and upcoming startup is TenderCo, and they're looking to revolutionize medical care management. A lot of the age is getting older. We're aging really well, and imagine having access to all the data, appointments, and financials, and AI-enabled environment to caregivers. Like, my parents are old; they have lots of appointments. They've got lots of cares to take care of, different medicines, different bills. It's complicated. It's a lot going on. So what I love about this is the simplicity of the approach. I mean, and the branding is right on point. Like, it's very simple. The colors tell you exactly what they want. The logo is very on point. Like, it's very, it's very easy to grasp. And I think this is something that we should talk about.
No, I agree. I think this is a big indication for where we're headed as a population when we talk about how much we're aging. I mean, we're looking at the number of Americans 65 and older will more than double in the next 25 years. And we're growing and we're aging faster this year than we have in the last 150 years. So this is a huge shift in what we're going to see and the different growth spaces that are going to continue to grow. That has to do with aging population. We're seeing the rise of healthcare services like physical therapy, hospitals, clinics, and home healthcare products and support like Tender. Pharma and biotech pushing the research on age-related conditions like arthritis, diabetes, heart disease, senior housing, and assisted living. When you're driving around, notice how many assisted living complexes have popped up around your suburban areas. Medical devices and supplies like hearing aids, mobility aids, wellness and fitness programs for older adults, financial services for retirement planning, leisure and travel that is commonly done by elders. Think cruises, guided tours, and then legal services like estate planning, rights protection. I think we're going to continue to see a massive growth in these types of spaces that have to do with the aging population. And that is one of the natural trends that we can foresee and we can almost guarantee that is happening in our society. So definitely something to keep an eye out, and Tender's activating at the right time and really giving themselves a lot of runway for growth.
No, absolutely. I think it's a good product, and I think the market needs it. The last brand I want to highlight is Gentle Monster. Gentle Monster was founded by Hankook Kim. They're not new per se. They've been around since 2016. But a couple years ago, they've been around for longer than 2016. They've been around for a while. But in 2016, they kind of hit the market really hard when one K-pop star and a Korean movie artist found it and wore them, and everybody was looking after them. One pivotal moment in his career, and this guy was very much aggressively after Luxotto, who owns the majority of the sunglass companies, right? Ever since then, they've got collabs with everybody, and what's very interesting and why I want to highlight Gentle Monsters is that it's a very disruptive art of glasses. It's not like your traditional face glasses. It's definitely there to make a point of knowing what they are, but then the experience is what it's about, right? If you go into any of the stores, these stores have a full experience that you have. They're very much enhanced in art and disruptive art. And I think that's really telling of where the people want, right? People want a different experience, and Gentle Monster is really doing something very, very different in that world to bring excitement to something that's like sunglasses.
Yeah, I think we were due for a shakeup in the eyewear industry. Generally speaking, things have been pretty much the same for decades, and there's a very little differentiation. So I love Gentle Monster coming in with this creative lens. They kind of started out as like this challenger brand who wanted to go against Luxottica, right? Like Luxottica owns your Ray-Bans and 90%, was it 60% of the sunglass and eyewear portfolio of brands that you've heard of. Luxottica holds 13% share of Gentle Monster. So now I'm starting to think, like, are they even the enemy anymore? They're the investor. But no, it doesn't discount the creativity and what they're bringing to the category. I think those retail experiences are phenomenal. They truly are like art exhibits. And I think what we've learned, especially at this price tag, I mean, these glasses are not cheap. Like, they're $300, $400 a pop, but they're art. right? It's not just function, right? It's not a brand name that's attached like your Ray-Bans and now you're looking for prestigious clout. Like, no, that's not what this is. This is creativity. This is art. This is a masterpiece on your face that has a little bit of functional use. So really interesting, very different way into a category that was, predominantly saturated. But, a lot of that foreign culture, foreign art influence coming broadly across the country into the US. So really good stuff. Really good highlight.
So let's go into the last segment, and I like to in my segments talk about some market insights and talk about what how things are moving around and give some guidance from our perspective of how businesses could function. And I mean, AI is all the buzz, Samir. I don't know if you've got initiatives inside to say, hey, what does AI do and what it doesn't do, but I've gone down the rabbit hole a little bit. I recently did an executives course on AI. I sent you some material from that, and then I've done the Google Cloud Intro to Generative AI. I'm currently doing the Microsoft Copilot product. So I'm deep in the tech. I'm a tech guy, so I'm deep into the tech to understand what it is today and what can it be. And it's interesting. Like the biggest thing that people aren't realizing and they're expecting is that AI is going to do the work for them. And right now, that's not what AI is. AI has been around for decades. I don't know if anybody remembers IBM Watson or the computer that played chess and beat the chess master. I mean, that was decades ago. And now, like, you look at spam filters, that's AI. Look at your algorithms for ads and marketing, that's all AI. I mean, that's been around forever. This is just a new trendy word that people are trying to attach. And the definition of AI is any activity that was traditionally done by a human is now done by technology. That's the traditional definition of AI. So, what are your thoughts, Samir? What have you been diving into on AI, and what do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, at least in our industry in the advertising world, AI tends to be seen as the displacer for jobs. But the way that I'm seeing a lot of conversation, and at least how the agency I work for looks at it, is that this is a tool meant to help us as resources, not one to replace us. And that's where I kind of look closer in, is what are some of those AI tools or different applications of AI that we may not think about, um, but tends to be around us a lot. And even though we may not notice it. And one area that I ended up at was in music. That I think we all would be surprised at how much music creation is using AI and has been using AI. I think there's a lot of debate regarding the originality of a lot of music and music that comes out. We hear so much about sampling from older tracks or, like utilizing hooks and lyrics from previous songs. But art as a whole is meant to be a blank canvas for us to create something from, and music is supposed to be that. But we are only as good at creating music as we can be inspired. But that also has a cap to it, right? Creativity is so much about the process than it is about the output. And music is one of those things that if any of you guys are out there into music composition or direction, it is really hard to create music from scratch, right? Like if you think about it as a normal person who may not be working in music, and if you just close your eyes and you take 10 seconds to yourself to try to come up with a musical melody from scratch, you are going to find inspiration from something that you've heard of before. And I think that's where the artistry around music gets really interesting, is now you can only compose music as much depending on how much music you know. All of the tracks that you listen to, you are educating your ear, your brain, and you're soaking in all of this musical knowledge and trying to use that to have an output. Now, what if that musical knowledge, this database of music in your brain, was unlimited? And that's essentially what AI is in music, is they have a repository of all of this music, sounds, melodies, beats, rhythms that can now be turned into real music creation. And that's where things get really interesting and starting to feel more original, because now you have a machine composing these things and not just people based off of their understanding of music and their knowledge base of music and sounds. And that's just one aspect of music and AI. You have a lot that goes into creation of music when it comes to creating the score, the finalized editing, balancing of sounds. Even our podcast software has a lot of sound and music features built in with powered by AI. So then now we're getting into the kind of the editing side of music, and where AI can clean music find balance, present the right opportunities in that equalizer to be able to create however way you wanted it to. I think now we're getting into so many different endless ways of being able to use AI, specifically in music. That's going to be really fascinating, and we will never know the difference. And every major producer, major music company, and behind the scenes are constantly going to be using AI, and we'll never know the difference. And that, to me, is the beauty of AI. Is we're going to get a lot more original music. We're going to get a lot more creativity back in music, and a lot of it's going to be powered by AI and people who know how to use it right. So that was my take. Music was really fascinating on that.
I'm on board, right? I think the biggest value of AI today, I'm looking at today, mainstream, available to everybody, is the unlockedness of creativity. Your ability to now look at data from a large amount of data and just analyze it and say, hey, look, how can I bounce this idea, use it as a soundboard, and build personas and build quick routes ideas, right? Draft content, draft audio sounds, draft video sounds, draft graphics. Like, it'll give you a starting point that you never had, right? It was all in your head and you didn't know how to do it, right? I think that is ready today. Targeting, personalizing customer segments, the chatbots, and don't be Air Canada, but chatbots in general are good. What it's not today, I want to point out, right, is as well, like today we're not in mainstream. It's not decision making, guys. It can't make decisions for you. It can't automate. It's not autonomous, right? That's autonomous AI. It can't mimic human thought process today. It's still going to need help. That's cognitive AI, behavior-based change, adaptive AI, automotive tasks, like automating tasks on its own, right? Being, hey, look, I know this trend. Let me go automate this thing, right? Automation isn't there yet. Predictive and perceptive analysis. You can't punch in a bunch of numbers and say, hey, look, predict what this is going to do. We're not there yet. That's not what this is. That's an LLM feature, and LLM and AI aren't generative AI and LLM aren't together yet, right? Future takes, yes. But I think you've got a big platform with AI and the ability to unlock creativity, assets, and look, I think it's not going to get rid of people. Are scared about the jobs, and there's a McKinsey report says about 600 million jobs will create in the next 5 years over AI, and the U.S. has invested about $20 billion in AI, and we expect the annual value of this to be somewhere in the $5 trillion. There's not people losing jobs. And look, 30% of activities are going to be 60%. 60% of jobs, 30% of their activities will get automated or have some sort of AI into it. About 5% they're predicting to be full automated. And about 15% people will be displaced, but 3% of that will get changed into different occupations, right? So there's a lot of positives coming out, and there's never been an industrial revolution or technology advancement that's not created jobs one way or another, right? Everything from the tractor to the iPhone to the computer coding and websites and cloud services and data centers. Everything has always pushed us forward and given us more opportunity and more jobs. You just got to roll with the punches.
Unless you're going to be those who would just sit back and don't adapt to the change, right? Those are the people that are going to get left behind. Great lineup, man. Super interesting. Really good highlights. I think the trending part was really fascinating. It's been a little bit since we talked about kind of current events, so hope you guys found that interesting. But yeah, really good job, Salim.
Thank you. Make sure you guys vote. Starting Monday, we'll get this going, and tell us what you think. Ciao.
Men go mad.
He's gone mad.
Madmen.
You're mad.
The man's mad.
Madmen.
I'm mad.